evil in the Allen room. Before I try to explain what happened, I need to tell you a little background information. The house was located at the head of the hollow, in other words, it was the last house in the hollow. Behind and around the house there were 2 pastures, and behind those were the hills full of trees. We found several large piles of stones scattered around in the back pasture and thought they were Indian burials. Kids, right? Eventually curiosity got the best of me and I started looking into the stone piles. These were large, heavy rocks and the piles were fairly big. I started finding old marble doorknobs. I thought they were cool and antique, so I began collecting them. This went on for a while, and then one day I found a jet black doorknob. All the other doorknobs were white or varying shades of white. Although I did not realize it at the time, that was where this particular story began. 4 days of weirdness. As far as I know, I have only sleepwalked one time. I didn't find out about it until the next day. My mother told me that I came walking downstairs and went into the kitchen. She thought I was going for a drink or something, but then she heard the back door open. She got up and walked into the kitchen and asked me where I was going. "I have to save Sloane," I yelled. She was confused and asked me what I was talking about. I repeated it and added that Sloane was my horse and I had to go save him. She told me that she would take care of my horse and she led me back to my bed. She said she realized I was sleepwalking, but my eyes were open and I was talking and looking right at her. The next night I had a very vivid nightmare. I heard people screaming and yelling, and when I went to the back door to look outside, there was a huge dark silhouette which appeared to be standing behind the hills with its hands resting upon the hilltops. I could see it from about the waist up. It was wearing a wide-brimmed hat with a pointed top. My family rushed out of the house and down the hill. I woke up terrified. The very next night I had another nightmare. This time I was being chased. I was in my bedroom, but the bed was in the middle of the room. I couldn't see what was chasing me except for its eyes. I would look back for a split second and would see those horrible eyes. I was running around the bed in circles with the thing behind me. Every now and then I would make a jump for this window, which was at the top of my door. In reality, there was no door to my bedroom. Eventually I made it to the window. I strained to pull myself up so I could escape the room and get away from the thing that was after me. In the meantime, my parents downstairs heard a lot of banging noises. My father came upstairs to check on me and I was not in my room. My window was wide open. He looked out and there I was. I had jumped out of the window and dropped 3 stories onto a pile of chimney bricks. We had been tearing out an old chimney and tossing the bricks and mortar out that window. Dad ran downstairs, outside, and picked me up and brought me back into the house. When he came into the house, he literally passed out and dropped me. That was when I awoke completely unharmed and with no idea I had been outside. On the 4th night I was in bed asleep. A chair flew across the room, slammed into my bed and fell into the floor. This was one of those kit-sized fold-up aluminum lawn chairs. I am absolutely certain that it was sitting in front of my desk when I went to bed, so the sound woke me up and I raised up and looked around the room. The chair was laying in the floor, folded up by my bed. An instant later I noticed a figure standing in my doorway. It was the same one from the dream of a couple nights before, but it was smaller. I could never explain why I became so brave all of a sudden, but I jumped out of bed and started kicking at the thing. My first kick hit the door facing, but then I kicked the shadowy looking figure and it slowly dissolved and appeared to vanish into the floor. At that time my mother came running in and asked me what was wrong. I replied, "It's in the Allen room." She said, "What?" I repeated it. She asked me what was the Allen room, and after I said it's in the Allen room, maybe 5 or 6 times, she grabbed me and shook me and asked again, "What is the Allen room?" By that time I replied to her with a simple "I don't know." The next day I was outside and for some reason a thought came into my head as though it were someone or something else telling me the black marble doorknob. I cannot explain how I came to think that, or hear that thought, but I was convinced that there was something evil associated with that piece of marble. I went to my room and got it. I took it up into the hills and I threw it as far as I could. I heard it crashing and tumbling through the dried leaves. The nightmares stopped and I never walked in my sleep again. All this happened over 30 years ago, but I remember it very clearly. For a long time I asked around and no one I talked to had ever known anyone named Alan who had lived there. But I did learn that where those rock piles were there used to be some houses, but that had been several decades before we moved there.